let's get this started. First video of the reaction stream, why hacking is the future of war. Lock in.
It's November 10th, 2008. Barack Obama just won an election, and he travels to the White House to meet with the outgoing president, George Bush. In that meeting, Bush told Obama about a top-secret weapon that the U.S. military had been developing with Israel since 2000.
I'm not going to send you my Discord in the chat, but because I just don't want it to be like in my VODs or anything like that. But if you want to send me your Discord, I might add you.
5. Codenamed Project Olympic Games. This weapon was intended to hit one of Iran's most fortified nuclear facilities. Buried deep underground, where centrifuges spin uranium to enrich it for use as energy or, with enough spinning, to be used in a nuclear weapon. But this secret weapon wasn't a missile, they weren't planning an airstrike. Instead, it was a computer file, less than a megabyte in size. 150,000 lines of pristine code. This is the weapon that the president had to tell Obama about.
What?
Whoa.
Oh, we're already on bullshit.
What's that? I just built a budgeting app in Base 44. Guys, Nina just built a...
I'm probably going to get YouTube Premium soon.
Little file had been planted in Iran, where it spread throughout the whole country. But it didn't do anything. It lay dormant until it found its way onto a flash drive that was then plugged in at this underground nuclear facility. And then it spread, finding its way to its final target, this one machine. And then the weapon spread.
No way. So they created a file and spread it throughout Iran, and it didn't actually serve a purpose until someone plugged in a hard drive?
Working. Quietly reprogramming the software to very subtly sabotage these delicate spinning centrifuges.
This was in 2008?
A valve to change the pressure, telling the centrifuge to spin a bit faster or a bit slower, all while telling the technicians that everything was working properly. Over time, these subtle manipulations destroyed these centrifuges. This was one of several weapons that the US had planted in Iran using sophisticated computer code. Now, if a war broke out with Iran, the US could turn off their power, could turn off their military defense systems, making it so they couldn't shoot down planes. They could turn off their command and control systems so they couldn't talk to each other during the fight. This was a real war plan executed by thousands of American military personnel, hundreds of millions of dollars in a cyber operation that would, quote, prepare the battlefield by weakening Iran's ability to fight. All of it using code. The code that sabotaged the nuclear facility was eventually discovered and named after some of the elements that were inside of these many lines of code. .stub or MRXNet. They called it Stuxnet. Now this weapon did slow down Iran's progress at first, but it didn't stop them. But what this did do was showcase a new style of war. The use of quiet weapons in the form of a tiny text file that could self-replicate and wreak actual physical damage on an enemy. We call this cyber warfare, and it has become a fixture of modern conflict. Let me show you how it works.
We're moving into a new era. People will actually...
Okay, like how do I just not know about any of this stuff? Like, why are they not teaching this stuff to us?
Our communication system.
With the click of a button, you can bring down nations to their knees.
Before Stuxnet, most cyber warfare was
Oh,
pretty
it's this
basic.
guy. Yo, this guy's lit. Go watch this guy's videos. They're actually tough.
Like in the 80s, you had this situation where an East German hacker broke into some military computers in the US looking for secrets for the FSB, which was like the Soviet spy agency. Or more recently, like in 2007, where Russian hackers attacked a bunch of Estonian websites in the financial, government, and media sectors, shutting them down as retaliation against Estonia deciding to relocate a Soviet monument. These were cyber attacks, but they were pretty weak and unsophisticated, especially compared to what was soon to come. So we live in a weird time. Our information is less secure than ever. And now my phone and my email and my physical mailbox are inundated with stuff I don't want to see. I feel like my information is just leaked out to anyone and everyone who wants it. And this, of course, is a part of today's video, but it also has to do with the sponsor of today's video, which is Incogni.
Okay, Hayden, it's not the time, all right? Hello? Hello? This guy's fucking like Mint Mobile. Hello? Hi. What's going on? I'm doing reactions right now.
Are you doing reactions? Or if you give us a little bit of, like, how long do you think, an hour? Hour and a half?
No,
Like 5 minutes?
no, like 3 hours, gang,
What?
of reactions, deadass. I just stopped playing the horror game. I just started reactions. I'm deadass doing this for like 3 more hours.
I have PCs. I set up stuff for PC for better, so we can play Siege 2.
Okay, well, I'm playing with Tanner tonight off stream because I haven't talked to him in a while. No, I just haven't played with Tanner at all in like 3 months, so I'm just gonna play with him for like tonight. But also, I don't have work tomorrow or the next day.
I don't have work tomorrow, but I'll be driving home tomorrow. It's like a 7-hour drive.
Yeah, but neither of us have work Monday. We could play all day Monday.
Or whatever, bitch.
Okay, bro.
I'm trying to make a clear area time for us, so you fucking turn me down. You fucking hate me.
Dude, this guy's literally
fucking
like
hate
a
me.
clingy girlfriend, bro.
No, you fucking hate me. But I'm gonna crash because of you. All 4 of us are gonna die in this car because of you.
I'm not the one causing you to crash. The mountains of marijuana you're consuming is what's gonna make you crash.
You were dying, you dumb fat fuck. Yell at him. Guys, yell at him.
Was that SpongeBob? Alright, I'm gonna play with Tanner tonight, ho. But we can play on Monday when I'm off. Dude, he's got the fucking Ryan Reynolds network. I can't, like, he keeps cutting out. Alright, bro. I gotta get back to this. I gotta get back to this.
Platform that data brokers use to get your information. It's really cumbersome and time consuming to go through the process to be taken off of these lists. The companies make it intentionally hard at times. So what you do is you sign up for Incogni and you give them off of these lists.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna...
Software was getting story. Let's dive into this deep, complicated, intense, wild story of cyber warfare.
The true power of the internet.
Powering the internet generation.
I got on the internet.
We have to remember that in the early 2000s, most of the world wasn't built off of the internet yet. Internet speeds were getting good. Software was getting sophisticated. And computers and their software were becoming the foundation to many big invisible industries like shipping, finance, and energy. And crucially, hackers who had grown up on the internet were getting really good at finding vulnerabilities in these systems, breaking into them, learning to exploit them. Now, how those hackers ended up selling their secrets to the US government in the name of making cyber weapons is the next part of the story.
Holy shit.
Want to strengthen your
So these people started figuring out weaknesses within the internet and they immediately just sold it to our government to give them more power. Dude, like, everything's a fucking money game, bro. Everything's a money game.
But first,
Zero
a quick
day.
word on software. This thing that runs our modern life, that is mostly invisible, but that is endlessly important. That ensures that you have electricity and that you can access your bank account and do your job. All of this is made possible because of something that looks very simple. Lines and lines of code. They're just basically...
I would never use simple as a description for that.
lists of instructions on how a system should run, what it should do in every circumstance, and who has access to what. But because more and more of the world is run on software, and software contains sensitive information like your social security number or bank account number, whatever, developers build their software like a castle. So this is our software castle. It has walls and locked doors that only authorized users are allowed to get into. But inevitably, because it's a big complex castle, the builders of this castle, on accident, left little holes, little vulnerabilities.
It's actually a really good way of explaining this.
Spots, secret doors, that if an intruder could find, would allow them to get in, where they can steal things, or even take control of parts of the castle. They can lock the owner out, and only give them access in exchange for money. Or they could just leave little time bombs that will blow up later. Almost all software has some kind of vulnerability that would allow a hacker to get in and control things. But the worst kind, arguably, and the nightmare scenario for software developers is the 0 day.
A vulnerability that is discovered and explored before it is known to or addressed
a 0
by
day
the
exploit,
maker
because
or vendor.
by the time the intruder gets into the software castle, the developers had known about this for 0 days, meaning they didn't know. They were unaware. They were blindsided by this attack. It was a
So that's what we did in 2008?
hole in their castle that somebody found, and now they're screwed. Now, once a hacker gets in, developers often know that there was a vulnerability. They can work on patching it, but that takes time. And then, of course, they have to get the users to update their software in order for that patch to actually work. And we all know how kind of annoying that is. A 0 day exploit is a software developer's nightmare, which in turn makes it a hacker's dream. Some hackers will spend their time looking for 0 day exploits in really powerful software, like the software that runs your iPhone, or Google Chrome, or Windows operating systems, or a million other pieces of software that run our world. Some are interested in doing this so that they can get money or passwords, that's the criminals. Or others are interested in gaining control of underground nuclear facilities and electricity grids. That would be the government. Okay, so let's say that you're a really sophisticated hacker and you have somehow found a 0 day exploit for an Apple iPhone iOS. You can get into someone's iPhone and control it. That's a really valuable thing. You now have a few choices on what to do with that information. Number one, you could go
bank information immediately. Okay, let's not get too deep. Brother, that's the point of the fucking video.
right to Apple, and you could give it to them. And they will pay you handsomely. Right now, they will pay you $1 million in exchange for a 0 day exploit that allows you to hack into their iPhone. Every big software company does this. Like Google will give you $150,000.
I'm in the wrong business, bitch. $1 million just to sit on a computer and code? It's probably not that easy though. I don't think I have the brain capacity for that shit.
If you can find a way to take over one of their Chromebooks via a website, software companies...
Let's pause it and listen to OTL BZCTE.
Chopper kick back, I think I got CT. Chopper kick back, I think I got CT. Chopper kick back, I think I got CT.
Yeah, this is the worst fucking piece of music I've ever heard in my entire life. I should ban you for suggesting such an awful song to me.
Because they want to know where the holes in their castle are. They want to patch them. They want to avoid the nightmare of being hacked into and compromising the security and privacy of their users. So yeah, that's one of your options. Sell it to Apple, get $1 million, totally above board. We'll call this the white market. But you could also sell it on the black market to criminals who want to use these exploits.
And I get more money out of this. I'm in the wrong business.
To make money, which happens. Like in 2016, there was this case where hackers that may or may not have been linked to North Korea were able to hack into the central bank of the country of Bangladesh. They were able to make all these fraudulent requests and like hijack the SWIFT system that transfers all the money. And in the end, they were able to get $81 million transferred to their bank account in the Philippines. Their end goal was to get closer to $1 billion, but because of a typo in one of their fraudulent requests, they got caught and it got shut down. But the point is that there's a black market for 0 days because there's a lot of money to be made if you can hack into a financial system. But you also have a third option here. If you have a 0 day exploit, you can sell it to a government or a military. They tend to have pretty big budgets, and more they're interested in developing cyber weapons. hacking tools that they can use against their enemies. We'll call this the gray market, and the money here is pretty big.
Patients around the
so many fucking ads.
Retainers wrong.
Dude, I love this guy's videos, but he's making so much goddamn money off of me right now.
So there's all these middlemen brokers for 0 days, like dealers. There's one Russian 0-day dealer who a few months ago tweeted out that due to high demand, their clients are now willing to pay $20 million, 100 times more, for a hacking tool that uses 0-day exploits that allows them to fully hack an iPhone or Android device. And then
they're just openly doing this on Twitter, and we're doing nothing about it.
They specified that their client is a non-NATO country, which experts basically say is them saying, like, this is Russia. Like, our client is Russia.
Oh, okay.
These 3 markets for 0 days.
So they're trying to... You're telling me they're trying to break into this right now? Look at that face. Oh.
Show us just how valuable these little bits of code have become, because they aren't just little bits of code. They are now weapons. They are access to very valuable castles of software. Criminals want them, software companies want them, but more and more governments want them. And this is how the US and Israel built Stuxnet, their big weapon against Iran, using 0 days. Not just one 0-day exploit, but 4.
And what Iranian officials describe as an act of nuclear terrorism.
And this is the reason why experts and the ex-director of the CIA call Stuxnet a game changer for warfare. Because whenever a country uses a big new weapon, all of the other countries, especially the rivals, realize that they have to match that capability and ideally one-up it. That's how arms race works. That's how nuclear weapons have worked. And that explains the concern of the ex-director of the CIA.
This has the whiff of August 1945.
1945 being the year that a nuclear weapon was used in war, thus changing...
They're comparing the birth of a nuclear weapon to cyber war? You're telling me hacking is... That's fucking insane. Hacking is just as dangerous as a nuclear warfare. I don't know. I don't buy it.
The world and the balance of power between countries forever.
Somebody just used a new weapon, and this weapon will not be put back into the box.
So by the end of the early 2000s, after Stuxnet, it truly was the beginning of a new era. A new era of cyber warfare.
Okay, I changed my mind. I believe it. Okay, the thing is, like, your average Joe can't go build a nuclear bomb, you know? But, like, anyone can learn coding. Like, anyone can learn coding, but not everybody can just go build a nuclear bomb. That's why this is so dangerous.
In 2012, Chinese-backed hackers broke into the computer systems of over a dozen oil and gas companies. There was an investigation, and the FBI and Homeland Security concluded that the attack wasn't to steal anything or even to sabotage the infrastructure, but rather to, quote, gain strategic access for future operations, meaning to gain leverage over the United States. Investigators said that this was the first time that they had seen anything like this. That same year, an Iranian hacker group attacked Saudi Arabia, Iran's enemy, using a cyber weapon that is kind of like a digital bomb. It was a virus called Shamoon, and it got into the computers of Saudi Arabia's state oil company, wiping their hard drives clean. This thing spread across the company's networks, ultimately wiping data from tens of thousands of computers and rendering them totally inoperable, a huge blow to the company. In 2015, a huge cyber attack occurred when the Russian hacking group Sandworm shut off the power to 250,000 Ukrainians.
Oh, so they've been beefing with Ukraine for a long time.
Gaining control of the computers that ran the power stations. This is actual footage of them remotely controlling these stations' computers.
They used a piece of automated malware to do that, which is a sign that they will probably want to use that again. That looked like a kind of practice rounds to develop a capability that they wanted to have to use globally.
This set a new precedent. People theoretically knew that cyber weapons could be used against electricity grids, which is like the lifeblood of our economy and society.
Yeah.
But it hadn't actually happened until this 2015 attack. These are just a few examples, but they're examples that show how cyber weapons became employed in a war context.
So when America kept getting threatened about like our power getting shut off, was that this? Like cyber warfare? Is that what that was? Because I saw that and I was like, how would they even do that? So that was this then.
Between countries. It wasn't just hackers trying to steal money. It was countries trying to hurt their enemy, trying to demonstrate their capabilities, to deter their enemy, to let them know that they have power over them. A tool of war, of national power. And indeed, in 2010, the US acknowledged this very overtly by adding the US Cyber Command as a new department to the military. Cyber war was here, and it was here to stay.
Today, we face threats that have increased in sophistication, magnitude, intensity, volume, and velocity.
But here's what's crazy is that these aren't weapons. These aren't like missiles where a country has a monopoly over buying and using them. Cyber weapons are just bits of code. They're text files that are really small and easy to transfer around. So what happens when a cyber weapon developed by a military gets into the hands of everyone and they can use it however they want? Well, that's exactly what happened in 2016.
The DNC has called the FBI after a deleting attempt to hack into voter databases.
During the 2016 presidential election, the US was hit with a barrage of cyber attacks. This included the hacking of emails of the Democratic Party, a misinformation campaign on social media, and even an attempted hack of voter registration databases in several states. American intelligence agencies came together, they investigated, and they concluded that this was Russia. It was Russian hackers that were supported and directed by the Russian government itself. And the goal was to sabotage the American electoral system.
The Russians were responsible for hacking the DNC.
This was like a frenzy here in the United States. Like everyone was talking about it. It was a huge deal. But in the middle of all of this, a post quietly appears on GitHub from a user by the name of the Shadow Brokers. This was a few months before the election. It was a tense time for a lot of reasons. They claimed that they had super powerful cyber weapons from the American government's most elite cyber war group, the ones who created Stuxnet, and that they would sell these hacking weapons to the highest bidder. They would take their bids in Bitcoin. They released a few pretty impressive samples that actually looked pretty legitimate. They released an encrypted file that said contained more hacking weapons, but you needed the password for it. But they held onto it, posting every once in a while with a trickle of more information and honestly, a lot of like bizarre rants on American hypocrisy and broken English that felt kind of intentional and caricatured. They didn't end up getting very much money and it all looked fairly ridiculous. But then out of nowhere came this post.
Last week, the Shadow Brokers be trying to help peoples. This week, the Shadow Brokers be thinking, f*** peoples.
They were getting pretty spicy, and indeed, they released this password, this weird password that they said was the password to that encrypted file that they had posted earlier. And when you put that password in the encrypted file, you discover that it is exactly what the Shadow Brokers said it was. 67 files that comprised...
Holy shit! 67?
that the NSA had ever created. And among them, the most powerful of the bunch, a tool called Eternal Blue, which allowed hackers to break into and control the Windows operating system, which is what most computers in this world use. Eternal Blue was like an open door. Back to our castle analogy, this was like a door into millions of castles and the power to spy inside of the castle, to unlock any door, to steal the contents of the castle, to disrupt and break and destroy whatever you wanted inside of the castle, to lock people out of their own castle. Yeah, I mean, this was like a sophisticated military weapon that had just been duplicated and sent to anyone who had an internet connection. And what it meant was that the Shadow Brokers, in all of their like caricatured broken English, were actually legit. They had hacked in to our national security agency, our secret spy agency, and stolen the cyber weapons and sent them out to the entire world. Not just to other governments, but to anyone. So who are these Shadow Brokers and how did they do this? The answer, and the kind of scary thing about cyber war, is that we don't totally know. Experts think that Russia did this to send a very clear signal to the NSA and to the United States at large that, hey, we can do this. We have the power to break into your biggest secrets, and we will release them if we want to. So now, after 2016, we enter a new era of cyber warfare. Stuxnet was a big turning point. The Shadow Brokers and Eternal Blue is our next turning point. From here on, you see a new genre of more sophisticated, more powerful cyber attacks. Barely a month after the NSA's secret weapons leak out by the Shadow Brokers, a North Korean-linked hacking group uses them to deploy a virus that spreads to nearly every country on Earth within hours, locking up hundreds of thousands of computers, making them unusable, which halted hospital equipment, police departments, governments, and railways in over 150 countries. You're sitting there on your computer and this pops up, saying that your files are locked and that you can get them back, but, quote,
you have not so enough time,
close quote, and that, quote,
you need to pay $300 worth of Bitcoin to do so.
Malicious software has been taking computers hostage in an unprecedented worldwide outbreak.
This is called ransomware. Basically, you ransom the computer files and you have to pay. This happened in a matter of hours. It was only stopped because a 22-year-old researcher accidentally activated a kill switch baked into the code. So the bigger crisis was kind of diverted. But even still, in just that few hours, as WannaCry was spreading to 150 countries, it caused hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe even billions of dollars of damage and economic loss. This showed us how powerful these NSA weapons could be.
How did I not know about this though? Like, how did I not know this happened?
In the hands of bad actors. And we learned this lesson once again when these same weapons were used by the masters of cyber warfare, Russia.
It's the single biggest attack on record.
It was June of 2017, the night before Ukraine's Constitution Day, when the Russian hacking group Sandworm deployed an attack that was similar to their 2015 electrical grid attack. But this time, they had the NSA weapons in their hands, so it was a whole new level. This one was called NotPetya. This thing was potent. It spread very quickly, and soon Ukrainians were seeing this scary screen on their computer that literally started with, quote,
oops. Your important files are encrypted. Perhaps you are busy looking for ways to recover your files, but don't waste your time. Nobody can recover your files without our decryption service.
It looked like another ransomware attack, saying that you have to pay $300 worth of Bitcoin in order to get your files released. But meanwhile, it was spreading super fast and wiping everything out in its path. It took down Kiev's mass transit system, airports, hospitals, and it rapidly spread through government agencies. Gas stations and power grids went down, credit cards stopped working, and it shut down almost every ATM machine in the capital. One person who was caught in the middle of this cyber attack described it as, life went very fast from what's new on Facebook to, do I have enough money to buy food for tomorrow? And it's a moment like this that we can really grasp just how fundamental this infrastructure is to our lives. And in this case, there was no kill switch. It was so viral that it spread beyond its target of Ukraine into other parts of the region, hitting the systems of a bunch of companies like FedEx or the shipping company Maersk. And soon tens of thousands of trucks were stuck for days with no computers to guide them. I mean, that's a lot of trucks. And many, many others. It affected tons of companies and agencies and systems, all because of this one virus. Unlike a missile or an invasion, cyber can hide behind this hackery-looking screen. This doesn't look like a state entity. This looks like a hacker doing a ransomware attack so they can make some money in Bitcoin. But that's not what this was. This was a coordinated, sophisticated attack by the Russian government using an American cyber weapon to make it more viral that caused an estimated $10 billion in economic loss and damages. And in the process, really blurring the lines of the rules of war, where usually like, you know what a country did to you and you know how you're supposed to respond, and all of that creates this nice balance of like deterrence. That's kind of the lifeblood of stability in our global order. When you've got these like shadowy, like deniable attacks, it makes it way harder to know how to respond. to whom to respond. And
Russia isn't in NATO, right? Yeah, Russia isn't in NATO. Yeah, Russia doesn't give a fuck about any sort of war laws that the world has. Like, Russia doesn't care.
Like, what's proportional? It just changes our view of conflict, which is why regimes like North Korea or Russia have leaned very heavily on this type of engagement, because as they become more isolated and as their military becomes less effective, this is a way for them to stay relevant, for their enemies to continue to fear them, because cyber is an actual weapon of war now. But let me just say something that is probably not obvious and might
Silent
be
time
surprising to you
bombs.
here at the end of the video, which is that the biggest threat in the future, the thing that's going to be the biggest part of cyber warfare, isn't going to be these big splashy, like shut down the electrical grid, doomsday scenario situations. Those might happen. Those are real threats. We need to prepare for them. But like any weapon of war, cyber is turning into a weapon that is being deployed subtly, that countries will use to get into the minds of their enemies. Like right now, we could be pretty certain that Russia and China have quietly infiltrated parts of our infrastructure systems. They haven't done anything with that, but they're probably there. At least that's what a lot of analysts and experts think. And that we have probably done the same to them. And that we're all just sitting there with our little time bombs put into our enemy's castle in case we need to use them. And we want our enemy to kind of know that we're there. There's this list that I've been looking at of all of the cyber attacks. CSIS, the think tank that I used to work at, documents these. And I was surprised that I hadn't heard of almost any of them because they're small, but they're frequent. To me, this is the future of cyber warfare. It's not Stuxnet and WannaCry. It's these death by 1,000 pokes, psychological warfare, revealing to your enemy that you have capabilities to infiltrate their systems. And in that sense, cyber warfare starts to look a lot like nuclear deterrence, like a shadowy, hidden submarine with nuclear weapons floating through the ocean somewhere, capable of hitting your enemy. And your enemy knows that. They don't know where it is, but they know that it's there. And any calculation that they make on conflict takes into account that that weapon is there and could be used at any point. This is the weird paradox of war and peace and deterrence. That one of the forces that has kept our world stable and rid of great powers conflict since 1945 has been the fact that we have very powerful weapons all pointed at each other, and therefore we don't use them. Cyber weapons are going the way of that kind of deterrence. Hopefully, they'll never be used in the way that we fear, that the sort of doomsday scenario of like they shut down the electrical grid and they do a full-scale attack. Yes, there will continue to be these moments where viruses spread, and to avoid those, just update your damn software. I hate it as much as you do, but like two-factor authentication, we gotta do it. All this stuff, it's there for a reason, because we live in a new world and we should be prepared for that world. As for the war and the geopolitics of it all, I'm gonna keep an eye on it, because one thing in all of this is certain. Cyber is here to stay. It is something we have to think about and understand if we're going to understand the future of war.
Wow. Yeah, that's fucking insane. I didn't know that any of that was even a thing. I didn't know about any of this stuff. This is insane. I mean, they can literally just shut down like whole companies that societies completely rely on. Like shutting down banks, that's fucking insane. The computers to hospitals, most of the time, like the interactions between countries are like governments interacting with each other. But this stuff like affects the people of the country immediately. Like they said, within 3 hours, this stuff is already taking effect. I mean, this is insane. That was a really good video though. Go watch Johnny Harris. His videos are tough.